my novel that I self-published. When you publish something, or at least traditionally, somebody who is not your mother says, gee, this is good enough. And I was looking for that, and I wasn't getting it. I went through the whole seeking an agent process and was not successful. And it was so frustrating. This book was rejected 113 times. Final straw was this. I had been subscribing to an agent's newsletter, trying to pick up tips and, really get into this, synced into this thing. At some point, her newsletter said, what I'm looking for is what is classified as a male confessional along the lines of Nick Hornby's High Fidelity. And I thought, thank God. This is exactly what I've written. And I got the emailed newsletter at 11 o'clock one day, and I said, I am so glad to read that you're looking for this. This is exactly what I've written. And I went in and I kind of did my query letter. The next day, I got an email back, Dear author, if you don't like what I've written, that's okay. Maybe it's not good enough, but you don't know what you're rejecting. You said you want this. You said this is what you're looking for, and what I told you was that's what I've got. So if you're not going to look at it, we need to do something else. I need to do something else. So having sort of made that decision, and I'll tell you, with some help from my pal Bill Westwood, who wrote and self-published this book. He was after me all the time to follow this route. Having seen Bill's work, having had this string of rejections, I needed to move on. Right about that time, I'd gone to church on a Sunday. My routine is I leave church and I drive up to work and I feed the cat that lives in our store. On the way up there was an NPR article about the Greenleaf Book Group. They're sort of a blend between self-publishing or even the derogatory term vanity press. They're a blend between that and traditional publishing. It really sounded attractive. And then on the heels of that article, the topic was crowdsourced funding, which I had never really heard about. As an example of crowdsourced funding, they talked about a place called Kickstarter. And this seemed to be, kind of the sky opening up and the light shining down and pointing at me. And I thought, boy, I'm going to try this. This was, I think, probably mid-October, maybe late October last year. So here it is, April, and I have a book. My advice for you is if you want to follow this path, you just do a couple of things. Number one, what's your goal? What are you trying to do? There are several companies that exist to help somebody self-publish. Just Google self-publishing. You'll start getting a bunch of unsolicited ads, but they're there. And Lulu is one. There's a local author, Ellie Gunn, has published through Lulu. Archway, I think, is a nod to the legitimacy of self-publishing. And the reason I say that is Archway was purchased by Simon & Schuster. They recognize that self-publishing is here to stay. Finding somebody is no problem. You're going to want to vet these. I contacted 4 or 5 places, and you just get a feel for the response. And some of them were so aggressive, and I didn't want that. One of the things that I wanted to do with self-publishing was retain control. There are established authors with contracts with major houses who are getting the rights to their books back so that they can self-publish. Why would you do that? Well, one thing is you retain more of the revenue. That's something. The other thing is if you publish traditionally, you don't get to pick your cover. You don't get to pick your title. You can suggest a title, but the publisher is under no obligation to accept it. Most books, self-published, traditionally published, whatever, don't make money. The average self-published book sells 300 copies. The average book in general sells 900 copies. One of my rejections on my book was the agent said, gee, I really like this. I just don't know how to sell it. There's a variety of reasons to self-publish. I think, again, define your goals. My goal was to produce the highest quality, trade paperback that I could, but then I also wanted the best promotion and distribution. And something that's kind of cool about being non-traditional is that I got to pick where the money goes. So in traditional publishing, for a debut author, they're probably going to print a couple of thousand copies. If you sell all of those copies, you're done. Probably that's not going to be reprinted. And again, at that point, it's not you don't get to pick. You don't get to say, you sold out, let's print some more. My thought was this: if I take this money that jumping ahead here, but that I hope to get, how am I going to divide that up? Because of the technology in printing now, you can just print more copies. Again, if you retain control of that. So I thought the better use of those funds would be to promote the book, hopefully sell the copies that I had done, and use that revenue to print some more. So my hope is that this would be sort of self-sustaining. So a male confessional is when a guy acts like a guy, and he has trouble with relationships, and he's at loose ends, and he can't get it together, and he's a kind of a bonehead. So the comment that I've gotten from female friends is, you should have made him suffer more. Now, contrast that with men who've read it, and they said, this is so cool. I really like this book.